Hello, 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 hello. Hey, this is Warren Redlick. We have a tweet from Elon Musk today, and I want to talk about this tweet. But before I start, I just want to say to the YouTube censors who are going to be looking at this, I'm almost certain this video is going to be demonetized. I'm going to be very careful to stay within YouTube's rules. So this conversation, this video is going to be very limited. I'm not going to mention any specific events that happened recently that might provoke more controversy. We're not going to go in depth into any particular incidents. I want to talk about what Elon tweeted about rifles, and I want to talk about educating people so they can understand more about rifles and what I think Elon might have wrong about rifles. So I just want to start off with that. So if you're a YouTube censor and you're looking at this video to decide whether it's monetized or not, or whether to censor it or not, I'm being very careful. I'm trying very hard to follow YouTube's policies. So, and this is, by the way, folks, why I often live stream on the Locals platform instead of on YouTube, because I cannot trust YouTube to be fair in its censorship. I just, there's a history of it. CNN and the big media can do whatever they want on YouTube and they don't get censored. But if I do something, I might get censored, and that's not fair. A little bit of background. I'm wearing this shirt on purpose. This is my Project Appleseed shirt. I'd show you the back, but it'd be too difficult to turn around. Project Appleseed is rifle training. I've done other rifle training, but I've done Project Appleseed twice. It's a 2-day event where you focus on shooting more accurately, and there's a lot about firearm safety, and there's a lot about constitutional history. My other rifle training was different. The Appleseed training I did was with a .22 rifle. It's a long story. The way they train is very unusual. I did this other training where we focused on shooting in different positions. It was rifle and pistol, and it was with the kind of scary rifle that people don't like to talk about, or people think should be banned. So, and I'm not. I realize there's an active chat. I'm not going to be looking at the chat right away. There's a few things I want to address. I want to go through Elon's tweets, and then I'm going to look at the chat afterwards. So you guys are free to have whatever conversation you want in the chat. I'm going to look at the chat later. I actually slowed the chat more than usual because I expected a lively chat. Okay, so to start off, Elon was asked about the discussion about scary rifles. And Elon said, and this is an important quote, the way he worded this is really important. He said, assault rifles should, at minimum, require a special permit where the recipient is extremely well vetted, in my opinion, IMO. Now, before he did the second tweet, remember, this is 15 hours. These are separated by 13 hours. I thought he might have been just simply stating what the law is. And here's one of the key distinctions that a lot of people don't understand. The term assault rifle, which is up here, the term assault rifle has a very specific meaning, and it only includes rifles that are capable of automatic fire. So when he says down here, any semi-automatic gun, semi-automatic guns are not assault rifles. In order to be an assault rifle, you can go on Wikipedia and you can look up the history of the term assault rifle. You can look up the history of the firearm, the type of firearm itself, and you can look at the history. It starts with Hitler, actually, in World War II. They created a rifle, and they called it the Storm rifle. And the term assault and assault rifle, which is a term that's been around since World War II, is for assaulting a position, not assaulting a person. It is a tactical concept. You are storming an enemy position. You are assaulting an enemy position. So the word assault in there is not about assaulting people. Any weapon is an assault weapon if you use it on a person, right? So the key language, the reason that the term was named that way is for something different. It was for a military use, not involving killing large numbers of people, which is what everybody thinks it's about, but a tactical tool for approaching trying to take ground, right? That's what the military, that's what ground troops do. They try to take ground, or they try to hold ground. So anyway, assault rifles that are capable of burst mode or full automatic, are already highly regulated in the United States. Very, very hard to get, very, very expensive. They do require a special permit, generally speaking. It's a FFL 3 or something like there's a 3 in it. It's a special license. There's a $200 tax stamp. The recipient is probably vetted. I'm not sure what extremely well vetted means. I don't think government, and I addressed this in a reply tweet I'm going to show later, I don't know that there's a history of government being very good at vetting. I think this concept of vetting as some kind of solution is very dubious. Anyway, after that, more recently, just a couple hours ago, Elon said, to be more precise, I mean any semi-automatic gun with supersonic ammo and a large magazine. Okay, so I think Elon basically walked away from, in other words, this was simply a statement of fact until he qualified it to say he doesn't really mean assault rifles. He means, quote, assault weapons. But this isn't in any definition of assault weapon I've ever seen. Supersonic ammo. I have a 22 rifle that is semi-automatic, but the ammunition, the rounds do not come out supersonic. My other two rifles are supersonic. Velocity of the round has a big impact on the effectiveness of it in damaging the target. So, unfortunately for Elon, this definition is a definition I've never seen anyone use outside of Elon. I've never seen any government propose that supersonic is a requirement for assault weapon. And large magazine, what's a large magazine? As far as I'm concerned, 30 rounds is a standard magazine. For an AR-15 or an AK-47, the standard magazine is 30 rounds. For an AR-10, for a semi-automatic 308, that type of rifle, a standard magazine is 20 rounds. 10-round magazines are not particularly useful for that type of rifle. You have 30-round magazines for a reason. You may not want to believe it, but there are reasons why people have them. Police have them. I think there's this notion that, let me go to his next tweet here. So any semi-automatic gun, does that mean pistols? You know, my Glock 26 has 10-round magazines, but I also have 12-round magazines that I use with it. A Glock 19, which is a Glock 19, which is a very common police gun, has a 15-round magazine. Glock 17 has, I think, a 17 or 19-round magazine, which is a large magazine. And handguns are generally not supersonic, by the way. But, you know, the term, I don't think he used the term assault weapon in any of his tweets, but I want to address this because it's very common for people who are angry about guns, people who don't understand guns and who are angry about guns. It's very common for them to use the term assault weapon or assault rifle loosely. And here's the problem. If you're going to make something illegal, you have to be clear about what you're making illegal in order to be fair to the person that you're prosecuting. They have rights. They have to know what you're prohibiting. And so your language that you choose matters. I own 4 firearms. All 4 of them are illegal under New York state law. They're all considered assault weapons. My 22 rifle, which is not supersonic, my Glock 26, which is not supersonic. I don't think my Glock 26, or I don't think either one of them has large magazines. The language in New York was capable of handling large magazines, you know, magazines of more than 10 rounds. Right? So my Glock 26 comes with a 10-round magazine, but I have 2 12-round magazines to go with them, so that crosses the line. My 22 rifle has 10-round magazines, but you can get 30-round, I think you can get 25-round magazines for them. I think you can even get drums with like 50 rounds for them. They don't work very well. But, you know, so how a state, and this is the thing, the term assault weapon is not, there's no consensus on what assault weapon means. There was the Clinton gun ban, which was called the assault weapons ban, and that had one definition of assault weapon that was ridiculously stupid if you ever look at it. And then New York has one definition, California might have a different definition, all these states might have different definitions of assault weapons. So one of the things I'm going to say to anyone who talks about this, and I'm going to say this to Elon as well, what do you mean? So semi-automatic gun with supersonic ammo and large mag. What if it has supersonic ammo and a small magazine? Is it and or? What if it has a large magazine but not supersonic ammo, but really big bullets? You have to be really careful with this stuff. If you're not careful with your language, you're not really... And here's my favorite example of this. There is a rifle that is known as the M1 Garand. Okay? Another popular thing that people talk about is military-style rifles. Okay? Which is odd because military style is these are meaningless terms, or military grade. Talk to any soldier whether they get good quality equipment. So most soldiers will say, we get shitty equipment. We'd love to have civilian grade equipment. The civilian grade rifles are often better than the military grade rifles. Stop using stupid language. If you don't know what you're talking about, it's really important to be clear. What is it you're trying to control? What is it you're trying to ban? What are you trying to regulate? What do you mean by the words that you use? If you don't know what you mean by the words that you use, you have a problem. So the M1 Garand is a rifle. It is a very powerful rifle. It shoots a 30-06, which is a large round at high velocity. It's more than twice as powerful, more than twice the power of an AR-15 or an AK-47. It has an 8-round box clip, and it is semi-automatic. Does that sound like an assault weapon to you? It's twice as powerful as an AR-15. It's semi-automatic. It is limited to 8-round box clips, so maybe that's not. The rounds are very high velocity. They're very high kinetic energy. So the rounds are very high velocity. They're very high kinetic energy because they're very large rounds. So is that something that you would... And sorry, a little bit of history. The M1 Garand was the main battle rifle for American soldiers, U.S. Army soldiers, in World War II and the Korean War, and was still in somewhat common use in the Vietnam War. Now, I have never seen an assault weapon ban proposal that would regulate the M1 Garand. I will tell you, in Vietnam, there were soldiers who were told to take M16s over M1 Garands, and they said, no, we want the M1 Garand. Because if you want to hit a target and you want to stop the shot, your goal is to stop the threat. Sorry, the M16 is a relatively low-powered rifle. The M1 Garand is a much higher-power rifle. Being able to spray and pray is not a very effective battle tactic in most cases. Being able to hit your target with something that's going to stop the threat is much more valuable. And so the M1 Garand is prized. It is a military style. I don't know what that means, but it was a military weapon. Not only is it not illegal under any assault weapons proposal I've seen, but the U.S. government, with bipartisan support, has been subsidizing the distribution of M1 Garands to people through the civilian marksmanship program, including, I believe, the Project Appleseed. This program, I believe, qualifies you for the M1 Garand. I didn't buy one. I don't particularly want one. But the U.S. government has been subsidizing the distribution of M1 Garands to civilians through something called the Civilian Marksmanship Program for decades. Bipartisan. Democrats and Republicans both support it. Do you think your government really cares about this stuff? Do you think your politicians really care about this stuff? I don't. So let's be clear. Okay, so I just want to address that. Let's go to the next. There was this, his tweet, Elon's tweets draw attention. They get media coverage. So Elon emailed, apparently. He had some communication with CNBC. And Elon scolded the media this week for giving attention to mass shooters, saying the exhaustive coverage played into their twisted motives, and Elon says absolutely. So there's a guy named Kyle Kashov. He is a former student, a graduate of the school in Parkland, and he is very careful not to mention the name of a shooter. He doesn't think we should give the shooter coverage, and I'm not talking about that incident. I'm not talking about the name of the individual. I'm not going to get into that. The theory is that they are somewhat motivated by the celebrity they get from this incident. I don't know if that's true. I'm not saying it is true. I'm not saying it isn't true. I think it's an open question whether that is what's really going on. I think giving these events themselves more attention signals to people who are twisted that this is something to do. But I don't think we can expect the media to not cover the incident. It's news. Like it or not, it's news. I think that maybe the over coverage is a little bit much. And I will say this, that incidents like this, on an average year, take 20 lives. There are 20,000 homicides in the United States in an average year. So the obsession, whenever an incident like this happens, we get this surge of people who are saying we have to do something. You want to do something about the 20 deaths, or do you want to do something about the 20,000 deaths? And if you're going to focus on the 20 deaths, is it because they're white children? Or is it because the media is hitting you with the endorphins? If we want to talk about the 20,000 homicides a year, then scary black rifles would not be the thing we would be talking about. Because here's a cold hard fact for you. This is from the FBI. Rifles, I think rifles and shotguns together are used in 4% of homicides. Okay, and rifles, okay, there's different kinds of rifles. Okay, they're not all scary black rifles. So if your focus is to save lives and reduce homicides, you'd probably focus on handguns. And there was an incident, I'll say the name Virginia Tech. The incident at Virginia Tech, that involved handguns. 33 deaths. No rifles involved. The incident in Aurora, Colorado, The weapon that did the most damage was a shotgun. So it's frustrating. Anyway, getting back to this point, I don't know if it's true that giving the shooter name attention makes a difference. I don't know if I think it's likely that the high volume of media coverage has an impact. But I don't know. And I don't think it's fair to say the media shouldn't cover it at all. And if they cover it some, if it gets a lot of attention from the audience, I don't know that there's a way out of that. I mean, I believe in free speech, and media is going to cover it, and the media that does cover it's going to get more clicks and more views. So it's inevitable they're going to cover it. So one other thing, when Elon was talking to CNBC, he followed with saying, "I strongly believe that the right to bear arms is an important safeguard against potential tyranny of government. Historically, maintaining their power over the people is why those in power did not allow public ownership of guns." This is a topic that really seems to enrage a lot of people. A lot of those of you who are watching who think this is silly, your silly black rifle is no defense against authoritarian governments. You're wrong. I'm sorry, you're wrong. We failed to defeat Vietnam, the Viet Cong. They were largely armed with AK-47s. We failed to defeat we failed to win Afghanistan. The indigenous people, whatever you want to call them, the people we were fighting, they were largely armed with AK-47s. We didn't really win Iraq. AK-47s. We've lost a lot of wars. The people on the other side, largely armed with AK-47s. Americans have a lot more guns. We have a lot more ammo. We have a lot better training. There's a lot of veterans. There's a lot of hunters. We're much more likely to be able to use our rifles effectively than poor, starving people in countries that don't have adequate education, training, etc. We're better prepared, and there's more of us. And the soldiers who you might use against us might be inclined to take our side, more inclined to take our side. So, and here's the thing. You can look up, for example, the Bielski Partisans, Bielski. Bielski Partisans. There's a movie called Bielski Brothers, I think. The Bielski Partisans resisted the Nazis, and they were armed. It is possible to meaningfully resist tyranny with rifles. And rifles are really important, by the way, because a tyrant isn't very scared of a handgun, because a handgun has an effective range of about 25 yards, and a handgun isn't very powerful. Right? My Glock 26, I'm probably not very effective beyond 10 yards with it. A good handgun shooter is probably more effective out to 25 yards with a decent handgun like a Glock 19. There's some other handguns that are, more accurate or easier to shoot, longer range, whatever, but they're relatively low power, and their effective range is mostly limited to 25 yards, maybe 50 yards for a good shooter. My rifles, the least accurate of my two, I have two main rifles, an AK and an AR-10. And with the AK, it can be pretty darn accurate out to 200 yards. And with my other rifle, I have an AR-10 chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor. That's a very high velocity round. That should be very effective out to 500 yards. It's very hard. So if you're a tyrant and you want to protect yourself from the masses, you need a 25-yard perimeter to protect yourself against handguns. It's not that hard to establish a 25-yard perimeter, 25-yard radius around you, a circle of 25-yard radius around you where you have guards, whatever, protecting you from people. A 500-yard radius is really hard to maintain. It's just really hard to protect yourself and still be able to go out. So tyrants can't really operate in society if civilians have 500-yard rifles. So that's why rifles matter. No, the rifles really, really matter, and they really are a defense against tyranny. And you can't always hide in your tanks, and you can't always hide in your palaces. At some point, you got to come out and you got to push, and you got to make things happen, and you got to send people out there to try to control us, and we're not going to be controlled. And we really haven't had a fascist or communist takeover of the United States yet. And one of the reasons why is because we're armed, and we're not going to stand for it. And the more this stuff happens, the more hardened we become. There's some famous quote from some Japanese admiral, which I think is false, that invading America would be stupid because there'd be a rifle behind every blade of grass. It's not really. I believe the quote is a fiction, but it's a good line. There's a lot of Americans who are armed. I'm in Florida. Something like 10% of the Florida population has a concealed carry license. The whole population, right? If you take out children, which is 20% of or more of the population, if you take out felons, if you really narrow it down, in large sections of Florida, half the white men are carrying guns. If you get into the demographics, half the white men are carrying concealed. And a lot of women are carrying concealed. I was at a party, a friend of mine at a party in his house in Vero Beach. He's from New York. He and his wife don't have guns. Everyone else at the party had a gun. The women were talking about where they carry. Everyone. There was like 20 people at this party. Everyone had a gun. The women had guns. The only two people who didn't have parties were my friends who came down from New York State. And they were like stunned that all their friends had guns. That's Florida. That's when you get to certain pockets of Florida. So, going on about this, Elon was trying to, he had this, how about a middle ground? Okay, and here's the thing. You can't compromise with evil. Okay? And I'm sorry, the people, not the average voter, the people behind the propaganda who are pushing to ban rifles, they're evil. Okay? They want to get rid of rifles so that they're free to establish tyranny. I know you don't want to believe that. I know you want to believe that Bernie Sanders is a nice guy and Elizabeth Warren's a nice person and Joe Biden, he just means well. Sure, he's a little goofy sometimes, but they're just nice people and they don't want to establish tyranny. They absolutely want the ability to establish tyranny if the opportunity presents itself. And the Republicans too. They want tyranny. They would love to have that level of power. There are many evil people in government. And if you just look at the history of government, it's not hard to find it. And the idea that if we reach some sort of compromise with the gun control movement, well, what if we just did this? They're not going to stop. They want to ban all guns. All of them. They don't just want to ban scary black rifles. They want to ban handguns. They want to ban shotguns. They want to ban 22s. They want to ban airsoft rifles. Parts of Australia banned airsoft rifles. They want to ban BB guns. They ban knives in England. There's no limit to what they want to ban. There is no compromise that will end it. There isn't. Anybody who tells you we just want to do this, they're lying. Okay? If you're somebody who tells me we just want to ban the scary black rifles, why don't you want to ban the handguns? They're like 90% of homicides, of gun homicides. As soon as you get the scary black rifles out of the way, you'll go to the next one, and then you'll say, well, compromise on this, and then compromise on this, and then we'll get rid of the semi-automatic hands. We'll go to revolvers. Wait, revolvers shoot too fast. Let's go to single-shot pistols. Wait, single-shot pistols are still scary. Let's ban them. It's never going to end. The only way to deal with it is no compromise. Zero. No. Not. You can't have them. It's not going to happen. And I see in the chat, Brian Silver says, unsubscribe, goodbye. Yeah, listen, I'm going to tell you tell me what I've got wrong factually. Tell me what I've got. Look, you can complain and you can say I'm not being nice and blah, blah, blah. S969 says you're deluding yourself. If the government wants to take you out, your rifles and guns would not protect you. Yeah, well, if there's 10 million of us, our guns and our rifles will protect us. If it's just one person, you're right. One person against the government's not going to work. 10 million of us? Check out when they tried to take out the Bundys. When the Bundys organized and there were a whole bunch of them. The government chickened out. When they're faced with a whole bunch of armed people who know how to shoot rifles, they don't want to come in and get shot. It's not always going to work. But tell me what I've got wrong in the facts. Tell me that you don't really want to ban all guns. Why wouldn't you want to ban handguns if you want to save lives? So his compromise, middle ground, a licensing standard for semi-auto rifles is a driver's license age 21 and no rap sheet. That sounds racist. Driver's license, black people are less likely to, if you talk about voter ID, right? You're going to require an ID in order to exercise a constitutional right? The left wouldn't like that if you said you had to have a driver's license to vote. You have to have a voter ID to vote. The left wouldn't like that. Yeah, and by the way, just for those of you who like what I'm saying, I want to thank Mick GCH46E for the super chat or the super sticker. I'm going to lose subscribers with this video. I'm making this video and I know I'm going to lose subscribers. This is not going to help my channel. Okay? If you like what I'm saying, please subscribe. If you like what I'm saying, please support the channel. Support the channel on Patreon. Particularly support the channel on the Locals platform. Super sticker, super chat. I appreciate any support, because I'm telling you right now, this video is not going to help my channel. I am going to lose subscribers over this, because people who want to ban guns do not want to hear this. They know they want to ban guns. They will tell themselves in their heads, we just want to ban the scary black rifles. They want to ban all guns. They do. So I really appreciate the support that I get. Anybody who's support, I appreciate it. But I want to be clear, right here, no rap sheet. No rap sheet. I mean, you know, this is racist. I mean, you could easily see, if you said that this was a requirement for voting, right? You have to have a driver's license and no rap sheet. The left would be screaming, you're a racist. So Elon's saying, what is a reasonable way to make it harder for people with homicidal impulses to obtain body count maximizing weapons? So this is a very popular mistake, is to describe one kind of rifle as, quote, body count maximizing. Henry rifle. Google it. A Henry rifle. Henry rifle is a lever action rifle from back in the 1800s. And you know, there's something similar still exists, a lever action. I think the rate of fire was close to 60 rounds a minute. Google Jerry Masulik, M-I-C-U-L-E-K, and watch how fast he can shoot a revolver. It's not the firearm. Okay? It's not. It's the shooter. Put a revolver in the hands of Jerry Masulik, and the technical capability of the revolver, you'll see it. Somebody who practices with any gun can shoot it fast. The advantage of, and really, AR-15, AK-47, they're not that high power. AR-10 is more powerful. M1 Garand is more powerful. Hunting rifles are more powerful. Shotguns are more powerful at close range. You know, it's... And then the people who say they want to do this, they'll go after handguns next. And the whole thing about large magazines, by the way, the long ago incident that Michael Moore made a movie about, column something. I'm trying not to say the names of incidents because I don't want to offend the YouTube censors. They use 10-round magazines. You make a 10, they just change mags. The difference is trivial. You think it's a big deal, it's not. It doesn't take that long to change a magazine. They just had a bunch of 10-round mags. It's not that hard. You're not making that much of a difference. You think you're making a difference, you're not. So Wanda suggested raise the age to 25. Elon said, and Elon has, this is one of the dumbest things I've seen Elon say a lot of things. I think this might be one of the dumbest things I've seen Elon say in my life. He said, maybe just require homicide insurance for a gun purchase. Well, number one, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is a problem with this as well. Shall not be infringed. Don't infringe the rights. What's the penalty for someone who commits homicide without homicide insurance? How much does the insurance cost? How does an actuary figure out how to price the insurance on this? This is it. People are always looking for this. You know, there's 300. The criminals are not going to buy the. If somebody, first of all, the people whose children are killed, they're not going to be that excited that there's homicide insurance. What is this doing? I'm sorry, Elon. That's just. I love you. I am a huge Elon fan, and I hate to say it, but you don't. What I'm seeing here is reasonably, because he's got important things to think about. Elon does not appear to have put that much time into thinking about a solution to this problem. And I'll say this. One of the challenges is defining what problem you're trying to solve. Are you trying to solve the problem where 20 people die a year, or are you trying to solve the problem where 20,000 people die a year? And I want to make an analogy, by the way. Talked about body count maximizing weapons. There's this, what was the semi-automatic gun with supersonic ammo. Why? Listen, there's 40,000 people a year that die on American roads in car accidents. What if we said, you know what? We want to save lives. We're going to say cars can't weigh more than 1,000 pounds, and they can't go more than 30 miles an hour. And that'll save a lot of lives, especially one of the most common ways people die in an accident is a pedestrian gets hit by a 4,000-pound car at 50 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour, whatever. If you made the cars only 1,000 pounds and you limited their speed to 30 miles an hour, pedestrians would be a lot more likely to survive accidents. And really, you know, if it saves just one life, right? Wait a minute. But you're saying, wait a minute. No, this is different. Why? It's different because you drive a car, right? It's different because you drive a car. By the way, I don't want this proposal. I'm not suggesting we should actually do this. Just saying the reality is that in life, we make choices and there are consequences, and sometimes people die. We don't live in a perfect world. And, you could say, I mean, we're talking about the guy who makes the fastest, highest kinetic energy vehicle in the world, right? The Plaid Model S. The Plaid Model S is probably a higher kinetic energy vehicle. Should we restrict Plaid Model S to certain age ranges? Should we have restrictions? Why do we allow vehicles to go? Forget about the 30-mile-an-hour limit. Why do we allow vehicles to go more than 60 miles an hour? It could be reasonable to say we're going to put a cap on the speed of vehicles, not a speed limit on the roads, but actually a physical governor on all the vehicles saying these vehicles cannot go more than 60 miles an hour. I'm going to bet most of you don't like that idea, but it actually would save lives. You do know that, right? You know it would save lives, and you're not willing, and you are willing to sacrifice lives because you want to drive faster. We could say, everybody under the age of 21, if they're going to drive, they have to have a manual transmission instead of an automatic transmission. Oh, but that would be harder to use. Yeah, so would a semi-automatic rifle, right? So would a bolt-action rifle would be harder to use than a semi-automatic rifle. A semi-automatic rifle is similar to an automatic transmission, right? I know you don't like it, but it is what it is. So the last thing I wanted to cover here was Elon, in the middle ground thing. He said, Jonna Kreider brought up that the military you can join at 18, and she suggested making the age to join the military 21. I think you might even be able to join the military earlier than 18, and you can become a police officer at around 18 years old as well. Elon said there's a sergeant making judgment calls about recruits before giving them a weapon, so that's a reasonable barrier. Is it really? And I said, what in your life history has led you to believe that government officials generally make good decisions? I think that it's very troubling. There's no easy answers to these things. And the reality is that, yes, if we don't ban guns, more people will die. It's true. If you don't ban guns, more people will die from gun incidents. There's a lot of things we could talk about. We could talk about how can we reduce homicidal maniacs? How can we address the problem of the creation of homicidal maniacs? I don't have a great answer to that question, but we could try to do something about it. Let me look in the chat. If you ban guns, only the criminals will get them. Yeah, I know. There's a lot of things that people will say who don't know much about guns. I will say this. The people who I'm pro-choice politically. I'm personally pro-life, but politically I'm pro-choice. I don't think government should get involved in that decision. If you believe that Republicans who don't understand the reproductive system shouldn't talk about abortion and shouldn't make abortion law, then if you don't know the difference between a magazine and a clip, and you don't know the fundamentals of how firearms work, then you probably shouldn't be talking about how guns should be regulated. Right? I mean, you got to think about that for a second. The liberals will say, and I agree with them, that when you see a Republican who demonstrates ignorance about the human reproductive system, that person shouldn't be playing a role in deciding about reproductive laws, right? Laws governing birth control, morning after pill, whatever, abortion. I agree. If they don't understand the reproductive system, they shouldn't be participating in that. If you don't understand firearms, then you shouldn't be participating in how to regulate firearms. Because if you don't know listen, if you want to make sense on that topic, then learn something. Go do some firearm safety training, right? Go actually learn how to shoot a gun, learn how guns work, learn a lot more about guns, and then come talk to me. The problem is, here's the thing. When you actually learn how to shoot guns and you learn about firearm safety, you start to learn that a lot of stuff that people who want to ban guns say is nonsense. You don't realize what you're saying what you're saying now is nonsense because you don't know what you're talking about. Just like that Republican who ranted about, what was the line he said? A woman doesn't have to get pregnant. She gets raped. She can shut that down. He said some stupid thing like that. So Ryan says, how do we identify people who want the weapon for killing people versus hunting and recreation? Well, I don't have my firearms for hunting or recreation. I have my firearms as to be ready to defend against tyranny and to be ready to survive apocalyptic scenarios. You know, I know you don't. I know you think that's crazy that we're likely to face apocalyptic scenarios. I'm not saying it's likely, but there's always a risk of some kind of really bad scenario, and I want to be able to defend myself, my family, my stuff, my home, and that's what those rifles are for. My scary black rifles are for that purpose and that purpose. I don't hunt. I might hunt in the future, but I don't currently. I don't hunt. The AR-10 would be a good hunting rifle. They don't really want to ban guns. They just want to stay in power and ban certain people from having power. You can tell just by the fact they will not enforce gun laws in inner cities. That's another. They won't enforce gun laws in inner cities. That's another point. The Obama administration was notable for not enforcing the federal gun laws. They did not vigorously. You can pass all the laws you want if you don't enforce them. And this is another thing. You want to ban guns? Who's going to take them away? The same police that you'll say only the police should have guns. Those are the same police you just told us you wanted to defund. Those are the same police you criticized in the Black Lives Matter thing. Make up your mind. Are the cops the good guys or the cops not the good guys? If the cops are the good guys, then stop calling them the bad guys. I think they're just guys and women. They're not good or bad. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. They're not necessarily that well trained. Google Sarasota police firearms training. You'll find out that there's a lot of police departments that aren't well trained. There's a lot of police officers who aren't well trained. Start reaching out to kids with no friends. I definitely think that we've seen in some of these incidents that the individual in question, the perpetrator, had a history of problems, and those problems were not well addressed. And one of my big issues, okay, I was a criminal defense lawyer. I represented a lot of people who faced drug charges or drunk driving charges. And the solution that the state has come up with is what I would call assembly line mental health. Right? They have assembly line. We have an assembly line criminal justice system. Part of the assembly line is somebody has a drug problem. Let's get them assembly line drug counseling, drug treatment. What I did for my clients was I had them see a clinical psychologist. My clients, of course, had money. I had them see a clinical psychologist, and get an evaluation of what was the underlying mental health condition that caused them to have a drug problem. What was the underlying mental health condition that caused them to drink and drive, and how do we address the underlying mental health condition? You have assembly line mental health, and what you have are assembly line drug counseling. Is you have some guy who's a former drug addict who gets licensed as a social worker, and he runs a room full of people, and he tells them all how to stop using drugs. And what he says doesn't apply to 90% of them because they all have underlying mental health issues that are not being addressed by this process. So if you really want to address this, then we need a lot more mental health counseling. We need to protect mental health professionals from liability because currently mental health professionals who treat young people under the age of 18, the liability is off the charts. The liability insurance is crazy expensive. It's hard for people who have kids with mental health problems to get adequate mental health counseling and treatment. It's hard because the liability, the lawyers. I'm a lawyer, right? I'm a personal injury lawyer. It's too easy for lawyers to sue them when something goes wrong. It's very difficult. You need to have a lot more mental health professionals with a lot better training, focusing on providing individualized counseling to children. Because there's a lot of children who have problems and they're not having their problems adequately addressed. And just throwing Adderall and Ritalin and other drugs at them is not solving the problem. You really want to understand what's the underlying mental health diagnosis, what's really going on in their heads, what's really going on in their minds, and how do we address that? And we don't really have good answers to that. And if you're going to spend that much money on individualized mental health counseling, this is another problem for Democrats and Republicans. You got to stop spending somewhere else. You got to come up with the money, and you can't just come up with the money by waving a magic wand. And you can't just say, well, we should do it. That's nice. Tell me where you're going to cut spending. My answer is easy. Bring all the troops home. End the war on drugs. Open the borders. I got a lot of government programs I could eliminate. That'll free up a lot of money. And if you eliminated a lot of government, yes, me, if you really think about it, government bureaucracy drives people nuts. The oppression of taxes, the oppression of regulation, the oppression of bureaucracy is an additional stressor on our lives. And if we got rid of a lot of government, then we would have less stress on our lives. I know you don't want to believe that. I know a lot of you believe that government is the answer to all our problems. I say government is the cause of most of our problems. You are not in the USA. Let's see. Most of the guns in Mexico are from Asia, including Russia. I don't know that. Anyone who's anti-gun should put a gun-free sign on their homes. Probably, yeah, that'd be interesting. Police have machine guns, M16 or M5. Those are, I think it's M4s. This is one of the things that if you think we just had there, I'm not going to say which incident, although certain recent incidents, there were armed officers on scene and they did not intervene. They waited. They waited too long. They waited outside. You know, I mean, one of the solutions that people hate that I say is even Republicans I know don't like this solution is let responsible adults carry in schools. So I have a concealed carry license. I can carry at a Chuck E. Cheese. I can carry at a crowded shopping mall. I can carry at a grocery store. I can carry at a playground. I can carry pretty much anywhere in Florida. There's a few limited exceptions, and one of the exceptions is schools. Why is it bad to carry at a school if it's not bad to carry at a Chuck E. Cheese or a mall or a daycare? Why is it bad to carry one place and not the other? And when you label a place gun-free zone, and you're somebody who decided to commit a mass shooting, where do you want to go? Do you want to go shoot at a place where somebody might shoot back, or you want to go shoot at a place where you know no one's going to shoot back? You want to know why there's all these shootings at schools? It's possible. I'm not saying it is the reason, but it's possible that one of the reasons is because they know it's a soft target. They know that nobody's going to shoot back because nobody there's armed. I was a substitute teacher. I wasn't able to bring my pistol to school. I wouldn't have been able to defend the kids. Something happened. And the idea that you're going to have, and people say, well, they've had armed officers at this place and this happened. Yeah, if you have one armed officer who might be at the wrong spot, or one armed officer who turns out to be a coward, it doesn't solve the problem. If you have, let's say 10% of the adults in a school, and there's 100 adults in the school, let's say 10% of the adults agree to carry, decide that they want to be a carry. And you can have some extra training for them, whatever you want to have. Now you have 10 people in the school. You're more likely to have somebody close to the bad guy. You might have more than one person close to the bad guy, and you're more likely to take the bad guy out. And the bad guy doesn't know who's armed. The kids don't know. If you know how to carry concealed, then nobody knows who's got the gun. I know you all want to believe this fantasy that the kids are going to steal the gun from somebody, but I've been a lot of places and no one's ever taken my gun. It's very, very rare to have a concealed carry, have someone take a gun from someone who's carrying concealed, because it's concealed. It's the whole point of carrying it concealed. People don't see it. They don't. Oh my God. Okay. I mean, if you've been in Florida or Texas, and you've been a lot of places, and there are places you've been where 25 to 50% of the men were carrying guns concealed, and you didn't notice any of them. Sorry. Let's see. Mark Plot says no untrained teachers with guns. We have untrained adults. I don't know what you mean by untrained, but you have to get a concealed carry license in Florida, and there's a certain requirement of a minimum amount of training. They're carrying guns at Chuck E. Cheese. They're carrying guns at malls. They're carrying guns at restaurants. They're carrying guns in all kinds of places. There's a few limited places where you can't carry without special training. So I could understand if you said, well, we want to have specific training for how to carry concealed at a school. Okay. Make it a 10-hour class. 8-hour class, 10-hour class, 20-hour class. I don't care. Come up with some kind of restriction. Don't make it so restrictive that people decide they don't want to go through the hassle. And not just teachers, staff, administrators, parents. You could let parents do it too. They pass a background check. If they got a concealed carry license, they passed a background check. Crime rate of people with concealed carry licenses is absurdly low. People with concealed carry licenses almost never commit crimes. It's stunning how low. Police officers have a higher crime rate than people with concealed carry licenses. I'm not making that up. Google it. Jacob Rosenhoff says it's just way too easy to get a gun in the United States. It should be hard. Why do you think it's easy to get a gun in the United States? Have you tried to get one? Try to get one. Try to get one, Jacob. Jacob, you've got 90 seconds till your answer. But when did you try to get a gun in the United States, and what method did you use to get one? I see that comment all the time. Oh, it's easy to get a gun in the United States. Really? You think so? You really think it's that easy? It's easy to get one illegally if you know the right people. It's pretty hard to get one legally for a lot of people. Depends on where you are. It's not as easy as you think. You think you're going to walk into a gun show and buy one and walk out and that's it? I've never been to a gun show where you can do that. Pazuzu says, can't you get another charge for any crime committed with a firearm? Look, it doesn't matter how many charges. If somebody goes into a school and commits a shooting, it doesn't matter how many charges you come at them with, right? Don Coin says, I'm from the Bay Area and I could get a gun easily if I wanted to. How, Don? How would you do that? H. Hal 9000 says, are machine guns okay then, Warren? I'm not sure what you mean by machine guns, and I'm not sure you know what you mean by machine guns, but yes, I think if the government can have them, then people should have them. I think machine guns are a waste of ammo. I think it's hard to shoot accurately with a machine gun. The ammo tends to be very expensive. It doesn't seem like a very smart thing to me. But if you can afford it, you can buy tanks, you can buy fighter planes in America. I don't know why you can't buy a fully automatic rifle. And you can buy one with a $200 tax stamp and a certain, it's... Jacob says, yes, I was offered an AK-47, a hand grenade, and a Magnum in Florida once at a gun shop. Did you go through the process of actually buying it, and did they tell you there would be a background check? And how long ago was this? Let's say, so Alex says, mass shooters may not be professional shooters, but putting weapons that can inflict great bodily harm in a kitten's paws makes it easier to inflict great bodily harm. Any weapon can inflict great bodily harm. Any weapon can inflict great bodily... 22 can inflict great bodily harm. I think you've bought into the propaganda that there's magic demon weapons. That these AR-15s and AK-47s are magic demon weapons that are somehow more powerful than normal weapons. And all guns are dangerous. Don't point them at people unless you're planning on shooting them. Don't put your finger on the trigger unless you're planning on shooting them. All guns are dangerous. The idea that this rifle is a demon rifle, that this rifle is somehow so much more dangerous than others is not true. They are somewhat more effective for some purposes. But shotguns are very, very powerful. Sorry, 12-gauge shotguns are very, very powerful. Do I think Elon really believes what he's saying or is pandering? I think Elon really believes what he's saying. I don't think he would be silly at this point. Don Coin says 80% lower receiver and finish the rest myself. Okay, Don, yes, you can build a gun yourself. The technology is like over 100 years old. You can build the guns yourself. The AK-47 is named the AK-47 because it was developed in 1947. It's like 70-year-old technology, 75-year-old technology. Yes, there's plenty of people who can make a gun themselves. It's not that hard. Congratulations. Guns will be downfall of the USA. Multiple people decide against living in the USA because of guns. It's like communism will be downfall of China. We've had guns from the very beginning. When do you think we didn't have guns? We've had AR-15s since 1950 something. We had guns. We had muskets at the beginning. Civilian. This is another thing. People say, "Oh, the Second Amendment doesn't apply to machine guns." The Second Amendment, when the country was founded, private citizens had cannon and private citizens had warships with cannon on them. In 1863, Google this. 1863, New York Times, Gatling gun. There was a Civil War riot going on in New York City, and this is in the New York Times reporting on its own history. The owner of the New York Times was on the roof of the building with not one, but 2 or more Gatling guns shooting at the crowd. Okay, the owner of the New York Times owned multiple Gatling guns. So your basic argument is a free-for-all with any weapons. I have yet to see a proposed restriction that makes sense. I think it's reasonable to say that violent felons shouldn't have firearms. I think that's a compromise I'm willing to make. We should probably deprive violent felons from possession of firearms. Another one, you'll see people saying mental health, there should be a mental health check. Okay, well, what mental health conditions are going to stop people from having guns? Which diagnoses are you going to apply that to? And just so you know, there was a proposal to have mental health be a factor in deciding whether people could have, I forget what the specific context was, but there was a federal proposal related to mental health and getting guns, and might have been veterans. The ACLU opposed it because we're not supposed to discriminate against people with mental health problems. And people with mental health problems are often likely to be the victims of crimes. If you're going to take away the tool that's useful to defending yourself from a crime from somebody who's likely to be victimized by crime, by criminals, Do you think that's a sensible strategy? Okay. Firearms should be restricted to single shot, non-repeating. Mark Plot, would you apply that restriction to police? Okay, and Jim Whitehead says the insane should never have firearms either, but it's really tough to figure out who that is. Mental health is not so simple as saying insane people and not insane people. There's a lot, it's very complex. Mental health is a very complex subject. There's a lot of different conditions. It's not even that well understood. How do you decide which mental health conditions mean you can't have guns and which ones mean you can? There is, in the universal background check, in the background checks that we have now, the federal background checks that are very commonly applied in almost every gun purchase in America, one of the red flags is you were committed to an institution by a judge because you were a danger to yourself or others. Okay, so that's not a mental health diagnosis. You have a history of being a danger to yourself or others, and that is something that will stop people from possessing firearms, or at least buying them through the normal means. So autistic people, yeah, is autism going to be, what about, hey, Elon, if somebody has an Asperger's diagnosis, can they still get a gun? Ultra MAGA will be considered a mental health. Well, that's the other thing. Once you say that you can base it on mental health conditions, then tyrants will start manufacturing mental health conditions, and they'll start changing the rules of the game. And at first it'll be, psychosis, and then it'll be, ADHD. Matthew says, I think convicted abusers should not be allowed to own guns. That's tricky. I think that goes along with my violent felons should not be allowed to own guns. It's really tricky because you have a lot of criminal cases involving domestic violence where it's very minor and even like false. So you got to be careful there. I think if we could all agree that violent felons, and violence meaning they were actually violent, not a drug felon that you decided to declare a drug crime a violent felony, but a real violent felony where someone was injured. Okay, I could compromise on that. Say people who are convicted violent felons shouldn't be allowed to have guns. I'm okay with that. I think that's the current law is anybody with a felony conviction can't have a gun. I don't know why drug felons, people who are convicted of having too much marijuana can't have guns. I don't know why that's true. Stop all fake news. Can Tesla make a bot that can defend mass shooting? I think that a Tesla bot could be useful. I think Tesla bots could be. I don't think that the plan is to have Tesla bots with guns. Let's be clear. I don't think we want Tesla bots with guns. I think having Tesla bots used for surveillance, used for scoping out the perimeter, used to identify when a threat might be coming, and then alerting the responsible adults you have inside the building so that they're ready to defend the building from the individual with, I think, it doesn't have to be the bot. I mean, you could have better security systems with cameras and AI built into the system so that the AI looks for what might be a potential threat. And it's going to take a lot of time to train that AI, but that might be useful. Should people be able to buy a tank and drive it on the streets? People can buy tanks. I don't think you can drive them on streets. You can buy a tank today in America. You can buy a fighter plane today in America. You can. Anthony Davis says something I agree with. Lawful citizens should be allowed to have any weapon the government is allowed to have, period. Look, I think lawful citizens should be able to have, people should be able to have whatever tools they want to have to defend themselves. Unless there's a reason, like I said, if they're a violent felon, then maybe you change the rules. Yeah, Tom Online has the point. Machine guns are legal if you pay $200, wait 6 to 18 months for an ATF background check. You can always only buy one that's made before 1984. Yeah, why is the wait 6 to 18 months? Because this is why you want background checks. This is why the people who want to ban guns want background checks, because once you have your background check rule in place, then you make it take longer. Right now, it's an instant background check. Right? Well, then you say, you know what? We don't want to use an instant background check. Let's make it a 5-day background check, a 5-day waiting period. Right? Somebody said you wanted a waiting period for abortion. Remember, I'm pro-choice. I don't want the government involved. But if Republicans said they wanted a waiting period for abortion, you'd be offended. But you want gun owners to have a waiting period to get a gun. You're just picking and choosing which rights you think are important. You don't respect individual rights in general. You only pick and choose the rights you like. Seems that one of the qualifying arguments against firearms is the ability to kill a lot of people easily. A large van in a crowd can kill lots of people really quick. Should we outlaw vans? I mean, look, we do require a special license to drive a semi, right? A CDL. There are certain class of vehicles that are large enough that we require a higher grade license, right? And you require extra training for that. Can I double subscribe? You can tell your friends to subscribe. Yada yada da mean 6116. Thank you. The gun grabbers would disarm the college girls I knew and let the rapists win. The police showed up an hour later. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. The people say, why do you need this kind of look? If police police officers have, Glock 19s with 15 rounds of ammo and they have extra mags, and they are allowed to have M16s or M4 automatic rifles. Right? Why do they have them? Why did Obama's Department of Homeland Security have a requisition for personal defense weapons that were full auto M4s, basically? Why? Why did they do that? It's called the personal defense weapon. You want the weapon that's best suited for defending yourself, that you're most comfortable defending yourself with. AR-15s are lightweight, relatively lightweight, relatively easy to handle. Chuck Hasloman says, let's have a school shooting every 2 weeks. I don't understand why you would want more school shootings. This is another thing that the people who want to ban guns say, oh, you want children to die. So when I say we should limit cars to 30 miles an hour and 1,000 pounds, and you say no, oh, so you want people to die, right? Don't play this emotional argument. That's nonsense. Stop playing the silly arguments. We're having a rational conversation about what we can do to make things better. And let's talk about that for a second. One of the frequent questions I get is, well, Warren, what's your solution to the problem? And the first question is, which problem do you want to solve? I want to solve the 20,000 homicides. You want to solve the 20 deaths a year. I want to solve the 20,000 homicides a year. I want to make progress on the 20,000 homicides a year. Okay? So, number one, and I'm going to lose the Republicans on this one, but end the drug war. All of it. Legalize all drugs. Yeah, I want to legalize all guns. I want to legalize all guns. I also want to legalize all drugs. Eliminate the prescription drug system. I can go to a pharmacy and get whatever drug I want. I don't need a doctor to say it's okay. I don't need the government to approve it. There shouldn't be any special rules. Buy whatever drug we want, wherever at reasonable stores, pharmacies. The drug war creates crime. We know it. It's been true from the beginning. Alcohol prohibition created crime. Drug prohibition creates crime. You want less crime. You want less violence. End the drug war. End the drug war. End the drug war. End the drug war. Period. You want less mental health problems? Shut down the military. Putting people in the military causes mental health. A lot of soldiers come home with mental health problems. Some of them end up doing bad things. Right? Bring all the troops home. End the military. Stop sending troops overseas. We don't even need a military in the United States. We're protected by 2 oceans. The Mexicans are invading anyway. We're not doing anything about it. The Canadians, they don't want to come here anymore because we have too many guns. So who's going to invade? There's no invasion threat. We're just sending troops all over the world messing around. We're not accomplishing. We keep losing. When's the last time we won a war? So Jim Whitehead says, I agree that drugs should be legalized to end the drug wars. It's thinking outside the box that traps most people. Look, the bipartisan consensus continues the war on drugs. Joe Biden supports the war on drugs. Donald Trump supports the war on drugs. Barack Obama supported the war on drugs. Bill Clinton, George W. Bush. I call him Bush Light just for fun. But we know the drug war causes crime. We know that alcohol prohibition crime. It's so obvious, and we don't change it. Like I said, individualized mental health, but that would be very expensive. It would be very hard to do. You'd have to do a lot of training. You'd have to train a lot of people. But you want to train a lot of clinical psychologists, frankly. Social workers are great. Mental health counselors are great, but you really want a lot of clinical psychologists. And that would require a big investment in training. It would take a while to get it through the pipeline. And you'd have to come up with a lot of money because a lot of people who need that kind of counseling either don't have it or they're not going to spend it. So Pensa Dave says USA #1 in mass shooting. I would say right now Russia's leading in mass shooting. They're doing a lot of shooting in Ukraine. Keep going, Warren. What happens after you disband the army? After you disband the army? I don't know. Everybody's dancing in the fields. Happy? Australia did an assault weapons ban and 0 mass shootings have happened since. Is that the? It's probably not the real Elon Musk. One of the common things that I see people use in their arguments is, well, look at this country over here, this country that's got a population smaller than California and has very different population demographics than the United States. Very different population demographics than the United States. Hey, New Hampshire hasn't had a school shooting. This is another key issue, key distinction. People will talk about the United States. The United States has this huge problem. Well, wait a minute. We have different states. So the state with the least gun restrictions, the fewest gun laws, the most wide open field for gun laws, for guns, is New Hampshire. New Hampshire has the lowest homicide rate in the country almost every year. It has a lower homicide rate than Canada, a lower homicide rate than Belgium, a lower homicide rate than Greece. Why does New Hampshire have such a low homicide rate? Why does Puerto Rico, which has the strictest gun laws in the United States, why does Puerto Rico have the highest homicide rate? If guns are the explanation for the volume of homicides, then why does the place with the strictest gun laws, Puerto Rico, have the highest homicide rate? And Washington, D.C. also has a high homicide rate and strict gun laws. New Hampshire and Vermont, I think Vermont may have increased their gun laws, but for the longest time, New Hampshire and Vermont had very limited, almost no gun laws. And they have very low homicide rates. Why is that? If you want to address it, you want to start looking at, this is the thing that people don't want to talk about. You want to start looking at culture. There are cultural reasons for violence in America. And we can't talk about that because when we get into the cultural reasons, it starts to look like we're talking about race, and we're not supposed to talk about race. And it doesn't matter how many black people get killed by black people in Chicago, that doesn't make the news. But when white people get shot in a school, all of a sudden it's news. When there's a mass shooting, it's news. When it's routine that there's shootings every day or multiple shootings a week in a city, when it's black people shooting black people, for some reason that doesn't make the news. I do think, this is an opinion and it's not a well-researched opinion, I do think that the decline in the nuclear family, the lack of fathers in the home, I think a lot of these incidents, when you look closely, you'll see that there's no father in the home or there's no meaningful father in the home. I think it's important for children to have good fathers, especially for young men, or for boys to have good fathers. And I don't know that there's an easy solution to that problem, but, this is going to sound Republican, and I'm a libertarian, not a Republican, but I think a welfare system that incentivizes single-parent homes, that might not be good for children. Real Talk says, Warren, can you please connect me so I can speak? I'm on your side. I don't know what it means to connect you. I don't have the ability to bring somebody. I didn't set this up so I could Zoom someone in. Yi Hoovy says, we trust people every day, doctors, food makers, that they don't poison food. Why do you think without guns, government and military will fight their own people? Because I read history. Where are you from? Look at what the Chinese did to their own people. Look what the Russians did to their own people. Look what the Germans did to their own people. History is filled with governments abusing their own people. And the only place it doesn't work is here because we're armed and we can stop them. Why would the U.S. have the highest public and school shootings in the world? Well, we have the highest parts of the United States have very high homicide rates for cultural reasons that you don't want to admit. Like, why does Puerto Rico, with the strictest gun laws in the country, why does Puerto Rico have the highest homicide rate? This is Shane Best. Why does, if you haven't figured out yet that that's a topic that's worthy of concern, that's worthy of understanding, why is the crime rate so high in Puerto Rico? Why is the crime rate so high in Caribbean communities in the United States? Okay? There are really, really narrow pockets in the United States that have really, really high crime rates. And the cops know where they are, and the white people in the suburbs don't know where they are. The cops know where they are. The black people who live nearby know where they are, right? But the white people don't know where they are. The white suburban people don't know where they are. There are some dangerous places in America, and there are cultural reasons why they're dangerous. The drug war being a big part of it. The drug war incentivizes gangs. Al Capone ran gangs because of prohibition. Drug war creates gangs. We Want Freedom says, not to mention how hard the world was abused during the recent public health situation. We have a current example of authoritarian control. Yeah, and then the places that had the most guns didn't have the least control. Yehuvi says guns would not stop that though. Government's too strong. You can shoot a tank all day. Yeah, they at some point, in order to enforce their tyranny, they have to get out of the tank. Yehuvi, you want to believe it. Why did we lose Vietnam? Why did we lose Afghanistan? Why did we lose Iraq? Why do we keep losing wars against people who pretty much all they have is rifles? Because rifles are actually effective against tyranny. You don't want to believe it. It's just true. John Jacob says the cartels buy stolen American weapons. I don't know what the source is of cartel weapons. I can't answer that. Australia's not a good comparison, but Puerto Rico. Well, Puerto Rico's in America. Puerto Rico is one of the prime reasons we have a high homicide rate. It's the place with the most homicides. Washington, D.C., Chicago. There's certain cities, New Orleans, there's certain cities that have high homicide rates. My hometown, there were 35 police officers. When I left in 2011, I think the department had been around for over 30 years. No police officer not only had no police officer ever fired a gun on the job, I don't believe any police officer had ever drawn his gun on the job. Okay? There's lots of very safe places in America. And you have this image that America is very dangerous because the media tells you that. It's not true. The vast majority of America is very safe. Safer than European countries. As safe as Canada. There are very, very small pockets that have very, very serious problems. And then we have these one-off incidents. The elephant in the room is the U.S. complete lack of a workable mental health system that can solve lessen homelessness as well as this gun violence epidemic. First of all, there's no gun violence epidemic. That's misleading. That's propaganda talk. We've had violent crime in the world in general. Read the book by Steven Pinker. I think it's Better Angels of Our Nature, something like that. Violence is down. Violence has declined everywhere. Media reporting of violence is up. There's a media epidemic. Okay, but there's not a violence epidemic. Violent crime is generally down. It was really bad in I think it was the mid-90s. There was a stretch where it was really bad. Yeah, Russian tanks aren't doing well in Ukraine. What's going on? Jim says, most areas in the USA are safe. I don't own a gun because I avoid the few scary areas. I still avoid the scary areas. I don't want to use it. I carry a gun because you never know. Something bad might happen. I want to be ready for it. Felipe says, very safe, guys. Your kids might die while in school, but very safe. Trust me. Your child, an American child, is far more likely to die in a car accident than in a shooting. I mean, probably 100 times more likely to die in a car accident than in a shooting. There's lots of ways people die. Leaded gasoline hypothesis. There is a theory that there's been a decline in lead. We've solved it. It's not just leaded gasoline. I think it was like leaded paint as well, Norman. That there's a decline in lead poisoning in children, and that improved intelligence and reduced mental health issues. We have mentally unstable people with guns. In older times, they wouldn't have had access to guns. Sure they did. We had less gun laws in the past. Dwayne says nobody should have more than 7 shots in any gun sold to the public. Why should police have more than 7 shots in their guns? Why should military have more than 7 shots in their guns? Peter Pan interrupted the maturation of Western men. That's an interesting one. I haven't heard that one before. Thank Reagan for gutting mental health. I think Reagan isn't alone in that. I think there's a lot of different politicians had a lot to do with that. But, mental health institutions that locked people up weren't necessarily a good answer either. Jim Manley says 99.9% of U.S. police never draw their weapon during their entire career. I don't know if it's 99.9, but it might be. That might be true. I don't know. It's all related to poverty and lack of opportunities. I don't think so. I think the drug crimes are often related to poverty because the drug trafficking is a more appealing option in some ways than regular jobs for people in poor communities who don't have good male role models to teach them to avoid that kind of behavior, and they don't listen to their moms. They don't listen to their mothers and grandmothers. I'm not sure that the father in the home matters. I think the father in the home matters. I could be wrong. I'm just looking in the chat here. How long have I been going? I've been going for over an hour. Solid research says 2 parents in the home usually produces kids that turn out better. It was known decades ago, but yeah, I don't know the research on that, Jim. I just want to quickly thank the moderators, Jim Whitehead and Mark Plott, and there may be others. Thank the channel members. I see Eric the Goat Guy there as a channel member. Please consider joining the YouTube channel. Please support this. Please support me on the Locals platform. There's a link to that in the description below, warrenredlick.locals.com. I did another live stream about this topic the other day on that platform. Support the channel on Patreon. Check out the t-shirts. This is not one of the t-shirts. My t-shirts are at elonbits.com, but just a refresher, this is the Project Appleseed t-shirt. This is where I did I did 2-day rifle training twice. Safety, accuracy, history. If you're interested, this is really good rifle training. Look up Project Appleseed. It's interesting, it's thoughtful, and it's useful. And I don't apply all the lessons when I shoot, but it's good. Yehuvi says, I understand your point, Warren, but there's a pattern. Why are always automatic guns used in shootings? Okay, so first of all, they're not automatic, Yehuvi. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right. They're not automatic, they're semi-automatic. We don't have a lot of non-semi-automatic guns. I don't know what you think is going on. I mean, police carry semi-automatic guns. Most pistols are semi-automatic, and revolvers are effectively semi-automatic. We say revolvers aren't semi-automatic, but you pull the trigger and it rotates the barrel and another bullet is put in place. So pretty much all modern guns are really semi-automatic or the equivalent of semi-automatic. And the difference, like if somebody was using a Henry rifle or pump action shotgun, would it really make a difference? Do you know the difference between semi-automatic and bolt action, lever action, pump action? If you don't know the difference between these firearms, then why are you talking? I mean, you don't know what you're talking about. Learn. Take some time. Actually, look, if you're that passionate about it, go to a range and go get some training. Go take firearm safety training. There's lots of classes. And here's a real surprise for you. You know who runs the most firearm safety trainings in America? You know? The shooters know. The gun guys know. The National Rifle Association runs a large share of firearm safety training in America. Firearm safety for kids, so kids learn how to be safe when they see a gun. Step away, tell an adult, don't touch it. So Shaq says, having guns makes the places more dangerous automatically. No, the places in America with the most guns are usually the safest places. The places with the most legal guns. New Hampshire, Montana, Utah. The rural areas are safer, and rural areas are where people have more guns. Cities are places where fewer people have guns, and they're more dangerous. In America. I don't know about Europe. Beacon says bolt action is generally more accurate. That's a pretty trivial difference. It matters to a small group of shooters. A lot of the shooting competitions use semi-automatic rifles. That you can use bolt action or semi-auto, but they tend to use semi-auto in the 1,000-yard shooting competitions. I'm trying to remember the name of the competition I'm thinking of. Freedom is less than personal response. Don't understand how Australia can outlaw guns with all the snakes in the outback. Positive life models, Norman says. Just knowing people with careers that aren't the 5 big public-facing careers, like seeing a real path out of poverty. Here's an interesting comment for Ernest. I worked as a security guard in an emergency room. You would be shocked how many people come into the hospital homicidal or suicidal. Suicidal, I would think a lot. I would think homicidal, I don't know what you mean. I don't know what you mean by homicidal. They're coming into the hospital homicidal. That would be scary to be in a hospital. Do you think it would be good to let people in Russia and China possess guns? I think it would be good for the people in Russia and China, yeah. I think that it would be much harder for the governments to be tyrannical and authoritarian if the population was armed. I want cocaine and coke again. Thank you, Mark. Yehuvi says, why are always automatic guns used in shootings to kill as many as possible to defend against government 10 million people with pistols? No, pistols are not effective against tyranny because pistols have a limited range and low power. And tyrants are not afraid of pistols because they only need a 25-yard perimeter to be relatively safe from pistols. But rifles are effective at 500 yards. In some cases, 1,000 yards for the good shooter. Many rifles are effective at 1,000 yards. Most rifles are effective at 200 yards. So, men in the past were men of their word. They knew that truth matters. Men today are more interested in their various charged opinions. I would say there may be an increase in narcissism in America. I certainly, for those who don't know, I'm trying to date and I'm not doing very well. And I feel like there's a lot of narcissism. Like I'm trying to date because I want to have kids again because I think there's real value in raising good children. And I'm good at it because I have 2 good children. And I feel like a lot of people aren't that interested in having children and raising children. They're too focused on themselves. They want to watch their TV shows. They want to get their Starbucks. They want the car that they want. They're too focused on their things instead of like, you know, I see all these women on dating profiles say they want a man who's generous. Do you want a man who gives you money or you want a man who saves money for your kids' college? I saved for both my kids have their college paid for already. Which is more valuable, right? Do you really want a guy who's just going to buy you fancy dinners and jewelry, or do you want a guy who's going to make sure your kids are taken care of? Because those aren't the same thing. I feel like there's a lot of narcissism in America. But, you know, what's his name? Better angels of our nature. Steven Pinker says we're less violent now. Felipe says, I'm a bit sad to learn your position on this, Warren. Guess we should focus on Tesla. Get Alexander. But Alexander wants to talk about this topic. She's in the middle. Did the audience shrink or is it... No, it's just a temporary thing. Okay. Mental health is because of social media. People really get to know how average they are, making them feel bad. I think social media plays a role in mental health, but I think we had mental health problems before social media was big. And people say it, and I'm not convinced that it's just the latest thing that we blame for mental health. Would China invade Taiwan if Taiwanese citizens could legally own firearms? I don't even know. What are Taiwanese laws on firearms? I have no idea what the laws are there. I would think the Taiwanese would have firearms for that reason. The whole media reporting on every single Tesla autopilot incident or battery fire is similar to how they report on gun violence. They only show the side that stirs up the most people. Yep. If you believe that the media has been lying to you, lying to the public about Tesla, and I think we all believe that if you're a Tesla fan, then why do you think they're telling the truth about guns? M. Mullen says most 9mm handgun ammo is supersonic. Subsonic rounds are the exception, not the norm. Is that true? I don't know. I've got a Glock 26. I think it's actually, I think you might be wrong. But I'm not sure you're wrong. I know 45s are not supersonic. Maybe 9mm does come out supersonic. I'm not sure. A big root problem with youth mental health is corrupt FAA and big pharma, media brainwashing, and leftist dismantling of family values. Okay, I mean, I think there's a lot of right-wing dismantling of family values too, but... all right. I think... Thoughts on Joe Biden's Indo-Pacific Economic Framework meeting earlier this week. That's not what this video is about. I don't have a Ruger 1022. I have a Plinkster, Mossberg Plinkster 22. I don't know what... I'm not sure. Maybe they are supersonic. I actually don't know that. I thought they weren't supersonic, but you could be right. Oh, thank you, Iris Motion. Thank you very much for the super sticker, Iris Motion. Greatly appreciated. Anthony Davis, all you anti-gun people in here, if you want to be defenseless, that's your choice, but you're not ever going to take America's guns ever. You ran against our Constitution. Yeah, I think we're at the point now where you're not going to take our guns away. I'm not handing mine over. The joke among gun people is just going to be a lot of boating accidents. I lost mine in a boating accident. It's going to be the line. Ranjit Joseph says, my point is America has the most number of mass shootings. Why is that? Do we really? Or do we just publicize them more? I'm going to say right now there's more mass shootings in Ukraine and Russia than, or Russia mass shootings in Ukraine than there are here. I think there's a lot of mass shootings in Mexico. We don't talk about that. Why are there so many mass shootings in Mexico? I think that a lot of other countries, Ranjit, I think a lot of other countries have much more homogenous populations. So I think the lack of the heterogeneity creates conflict. That's a theory. But we count our we publicize our mass shootings. We count them. Maybe in your country, first of all, it's clearly if we have more guns, yeah, that you know, maybe it's more likely we're gonna have more shootings. But again, New Hampshire has lower homicide rate than some European countries and Canada, even though they have wide open gun laws and lots of people have guns. So explain that. And the answer is it's cultural, but we can't talk about that, right? Limitless says, I live in Dallas, just never needed a gun. I never needed a gun either. I don't have a gun because I've needed one. I have a gun because I never know when I might need one. Thank you, William. No cars driving through schools, Nick Hollingsworth said. Actually, there was just an incident in West Palm Beach, right near me. I know a friend of the guy who was killed. A guy went nuts and crashed his car into a school. And this is classified as a school shooting by the people who count school shootings. He was shot by police. The people who count school shootings count that as a school shooting. The police shot a bad guy, quote, an alleged bad guy, who was in a school. So that's a school shooting, right? You believe that? So Taiwan is gun-free except police, military, security. Thank you, Mark. I did not know that. Curious. Many people don't know what criminals live or lurk nearby. They think they may not need a gun, but in fact, they may need one someday. I know there are places where there are incidents where homes are invaded, where there's burglaries in somebody's home and it ends up being a conflict. And I have a pistol so that I can defend my home if somebody comes in. I have a rifle so I can defend my home from chaos if chaos ensues. U.S. has more complete reporting. U.S. has over-reporting of crimes. We report crimes like in high volume. There's crimes in other countries that may not get reported as much. Having a gun and never needing it is much better than needing one and not having it. Exactly. Stephen Barry says he's chilling in New Hampshire. I do sometimes think of moving to New Hampshire, Stephen. My cousin lives in Francistown. My uncle lived in Randolph, New Hampshire, near Berlin and Gorham. My other cousin lives, I think, in Gorham. Spent a fair amount of time in New Hampshire. Love the state. Sarah Shannon, thank you for your comment, Sarah. Sarah says, can we do better, or is this just the way it's going to be? We could do better, but our politics do not allow us to do better, and it's not just about guns. Our politics do not allow us to do better about mental health. Our politics do not allow us to do better about the drug war. I would say that incidents like this are used to stir us up and get us arguing with each other and keep us from talking about the stuff where we agree. Like, pretty much, I've suggested we end the drug war, and I didn't see anybody disagreeing with me in the chat. But we never end the drug war. The vast majority of intelligent people who put an hour of thought into the drug war realize alcohol prohibition didn't work. Why would anybody think drug prohibitions works and say we should end it? But we never end it. I mean, just end it. Legalize all drugs. I would even eliminate the prescription drug system. Anybody wants to can go to a pharmacy and get whatever drug they want. You can put an 18-year-old age limit on it if you want. You know, that would solve a large number of problems, but it would eliminate some jobs, and politicians don't want to eliminate government jobs. It would mean a lot fewer prison jobs, be a lot fewer police jobs. Sinister says, use a gun to obtain most of my food. I guess you hunt. I hope that means you hunt. David Kasman says, it's a good topic. I was on my high school rifle team. I own 2 guns. I see no reason why people need Uzis and the like for sport or self-defense. Police carry rifles. They carry scary black rifles because they might need them sometimes. You don't know when you're going to need them. If five guys break into your home, what gun do you want? Do you want a 6-round pistol? Or do you want a 30-round AR-15? 5 guys invaded your home. Your wife and your children are in jeopardy. Which gun do you want to have? Do you want the most effective tool you can have to defend your home, or do you want the one that some guy on a YouTube chat said, this is all you need? I want the most effective tool I can have to defend my home. You want to limit yourself to something that's less effective. That's your choice. And I should say, like where I grew up in Guilderland, New York, upstate New York, yeah, there was basically no home invasions, no burglaries. I can't remember of one happening. Down here in South Florida, it happens. We have home invasions, we have burglaries, it's a serious problem. It happened in Albany, but it didn't happen in my hometown of Guilderland. So if you live in a place that's really, really safe, but it's really, really rare to have those incidents, you can have that attitude. But there's large swaths of America where home invasions and burglaries are common, and you need to be able to defend yourself. And you can choose to have the weapon that's not most effective at defending yourself, but I want the weapon that's most effective at defending myself. Sarah says she wants a 12-gauge shotgun. Have you ever fired a 12-gauge shotgun? They have a lot of kick. They have a lot of recoil. I do not like shooting shotguns. I don't like shooting big rifles. The 30-06. They kick a lot. When I did my all-day rifle and pistol training at where was that? Okeechobee Shooting Sports. I had this huge bruise, and that was from the AK, which is much less powerful than a shotgun. Be careful what you wish for. Shoot it before you decide you want it. Same thing with handguns. Shoot it before. Go try it out. Tiga Ghoul says, been a cop for 27 years. I don't trust anyone with guns. Officers who are supposed to be stable-minded commit suicide by gun. Well, police is a hard job. People don't realize how hard of a job it is. The problem, Tiga Ghoul, is that the criminals have guns, and when seconds count, the police are minutes away. If I want to defend my home, I want to defend my home now. I don't want to wait for the cops to show up and defend it after I'm dead. 3D Effects says loads of personal responsibility in New Hampshire. No seatbelt law, no helmet law, no auto insurance law, and constitutional carry. Yep. You can carry concealed or open without a license. I believe in New Hampshire you can carry in a school. Never been a school shooting. Never had a school shooting in New Hampshire. Because adults can carry in schools. Maybe that's the reason. I'm not sure. Robin says the people that are killing people do not have a license and do not fall under what you are personally talking about. Robin, I'm not sure what you mean. I'm not sure what I said or if you were referring to me or someone else. Mark Edwards says the best home defense gun is a short-barreled 12-gauge Magnum shotgun. Short-barreled might be illegal. The best home defense gun is the one you're comfortable with, that you're accurate with, that you're responsible with. The idea that there's one gun that's appropriate for everybody is probably wrong. Let's see. Stewie Collins says, I heard you earlier say you're for open borders. Can you please clarify what you mean by this? I didn't answer it earlier. Open borders. We should let anybody who wants to come in the country come in the country. That was the U.S. policy for 120 years. First 120 years of the country was basically wide open. Anybody could come. I think they might have stopped people with infectious disease if they came on ships, but if they wanted to cross from the Mexican border, the Canadian border, that we didn't have the resources to stop people from coming in the country from Canada or Mexico. We still don't really. We pretend we do, but we don't. Stop bothering to try to stop people from coming in. And if you one of the crazy things people don't realize, when you have our border controls, people come in, then they won't leave. If you have open borders, people will go home. They'll come in, they'll do some work, they'll go home. Once they're here, they don't want to leave because if they think they might not be able to get back, they don't leave. If your gun means more to you than a child's life, there might be something wrong with you. Okay. So Dwayne says if your gun means more to you than a child's life, then there might be something wrong with you. Well, my gun means a lot to me so I can protect my child's life. But Dwayne, I propose that we limit cars to 1,000 pounds full maximum weight, and we limit their speeds to 30 miles an hour. There's 40,000 traffic deaths in America, and if you limited cars to 1,000 pounds and you limit their speeds to 30 miles an hour, you'd probably wipe out at least 3/4 of those traffic deaths. Are you okay with that, Dwayne? Or is your view that we need big cars that go fast? You're willing to sacrifice 30,000 lives for that, right? It's a nonsense argument. Your gun means more to you than a child's life. I use my gun to protect my children's lives and those around me. Yeah, the open, maybe I should do a video about open borders and we'll have that conversation another time. Thank you, Anthony. If you keep a gun at home and you don't care about your, if you keep a gun at home, you don't care about your family, you care about your toys. Statistics say if you keep a gun, you put at risk your family. That's interesting. It's nice to see, Diego, that you read propaganda. There's an awful lot of people who own guns who understand gun safety, and the statistics you're referring to are lies. There's three kinds of lies: lies, damn lies, and statistics. I'm sure you believe that, and I can assure you it's not true. People who are careless with guns, maybe they're putting their children at risk, but people who are responsible, no. Shaq says in the USA it would be a bigger problem. You can buy bullets at Walmart. Really? Have you been to a Walmart lately? I've been to Walmart. There's not a lot of bullets on the shelves. Pretty hard to find ammo at Walmart lately. I can't find the ammo I want at Walmart. I don't know where tell me what Walmart you're going to so I can get the ammo I want. If you believe in democracy, don't you want to give up your gun if the majority voted? No, I believe in a republic. I believe in individual rights trumping the majority rule. Democracy is two wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner. I'm going to say that again. Democracy is two wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner. Is that what you want? Is that what you feel about democracy? Reduce mental illness, raise the gun purchasing age to 21 with a driver's license and no criminal mental. Okay, Mike says no. You have to have no criminal or mental illness history. What if you have one marijuana possession conviction? That mean you can never have a gun for the rest of your life? Is that what you want, Mike? Mental illness. What if you have ADHD? What if you had what if you had depression once? No mental illness history at all? Doesn't everybody have a mental illness history? Raise the gun purchasing age. So can I buy one at 21 and give it to my kid? You guys make up rules and you don't think through the consequences of your rules. You can make bullets. Matthew says you can make bullets. There's a whole industry of equipment for making your own ammo at home. Tiga Ghoul says, unfortunately, people can 3D print almost any gun. There is no history of any 3D. I don't know that there's ever been a 3D printed gun used in a crime. So stop with the idea of home. People can make. You're right that people can make guns at home. People can 3D print guns, whatever. I don't know of any history of that actually ever being a significant factor in any crime. That's propaganda talk. Death penalty for gun crimes. I'm opposed to the death penalty in pretty much all circumstances. All citizens should be armed with phasers. Nice. Bullets can't be. I think bullets probably could be 3D printed, but I don't think anybody bothers. So you don't like democracy? Democracy is pretty bad. It's better than the alternatives mostly, but I believe in individual rights more than I believe in democracy. I believe in small government rather than big government. All this gun talk makes me want to buy another gun. Yeah, I have enough. That's the funny thing. Like I have friends. One friend, I think he has 75 guns. I have 4, and I have like zero desire to buy another one. Like like sometimes I think, well, I should have a backup handgun. I should have a backup of my main rifle. But, isn't a republic the same thing? Nope. Do some research. Learn what a republic is. There are limits to in a republic, there are limits to the power of the majority. That's my rough interpretation of what a republic is. Probably wrong. Nobody knows what a republic is. Republicans don't know what a republic is. Toxic feminism. Boobtubers blaming toxic feminism. Okay, that's an interesting one. There are plenty of bullets in Montana Walmarts. I got to go to Montana then. Do they have 6.5 Creedmoor? I'm low on 6.5. I can't get enough 6.5 Creedmoor. Where do I get that? Maybe it's gotten easier. I haven't looked in a while. 3D printed guns are a big problem now? I think the propaganda about 3D printed guns is a big problem. 3D printed guns aren't a big problem. Show me an article where a 3D printed gun was used in a crime. It's just ridiculous. It's like 40,000 homicides in America. How many of them are committed with 3D printed guns? 1, 3, 0? Why are people allowed to randomly walk into schools with rifles? They're not legally allowed to randomly walk into schools with rifles. They're allowed to walk into schools with rifles because there's nobody there to stop them. 3D guns being used every day in Oakland? Okay, well, I'll take your word for it. Stewie Collins says, I consider myself mostly libertarian. That means you're not libertarian. By the way, the way you know you're a real libertarian is if you start telling other people they're not real libertarians. Just so you know, that's a rule in Libertarian Club, right? You're not a real libertarian until you told somebody else they're not a real libertarian. But the way you described open borders sounds terrifying. It was the first 120 years of the United States was open borders. The vast majority of the world had open borders for the vast majority of human existence. Why is that terrifying? What are you talking about? In your scenario, just anyone could come through, people with unknown dangerous histories? Yikes. The biggest dangers in America are people who are born here. Why do you think foreigners are more dangerous than Americans? You can make bullets from ice? I suppose you could. Everyone should live in government-owned housing pods and not be able to leave, own nothing, and be happy. Exactly. Drill press and CNC machine would do far more than a 3D printer. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to make guns myself, but I know it's common. So Mike Cozy says, I meant felonies and violent mental illness. Well, you didn't say violent mental illness, and you don't understand that mental health is very, very complicated. And so somebody has one violent mental health issue when they're 14 years old, and then they're banned for owning guns for life. Like, it's not as, you want to say it's simple. It's not. It's very complicated, and it's unfair. What about somebody who was in the military and had PTSD? Can they own a gun as a veteran? What about a cop? Can somebody be a cop with PTSD? A lot of them have it. Why don't they have metal detectors at the schools and fences around them so these killers can't get in? They do have fences around schools in Florida. The fences don't work. I mean, you know, a teenager wants to get over a fence. You think a teenage boy can't get over a fence? Seriously? It's a huge waste of money having fences. My hometown, they didn't have fences around the schools. Upstate New York, you almost never see a fence around a school. In Florida, they spend, I have no idea how much money these school districts spend on all these fences. It's got to be millions of dollars for each school district, maybe tens of millions of dollars a year for fences. Because, you know, you got to replace and repair and whatever. How many teachers could you hire with that money? And then what does she say? Why don't they have metal detectors? So the problem is, so think about this. Suppose you decided to have metal detectors at the schools and you had all the kids coming into school at one time and you restricted the flow. So now you have a big group of kids all in one mass. Okay, now put yourself in the mind of a school shooter. What would be a really good time to show up at school? Think about that for a second. Think about the dynamic effects of what you propose. You want to mass all the, or they're leaving the school. You know, we're going to only have one door to the school. So all the kids are crowded into one place. The school shooter knows where to go, when to go there. You can be across the street from the school with a rifle. Start shooting, you know, you have a mass of people. It's easy. It's literally ducks in a barrel. Here's what you hate. What you hate is the idea that responsible adults might carry guns in schools. I carry my gun everywhere. Carry it. I don't carry it at the gym, just be clear. I carry it. I can carry it in Chuck E. Cheese. I can carry it in playgrounds, crowded shopping malls, pretty much anywhere in Florida with some rare exception. I think it's concerts. You can carry in concerts if it's certain arenas. Why are schools special? Why are schools different than Chuck E. Cheese and playgrounds? What, you know, if I'm carrying concealed in one place, I can carry concealed in another place. Why do you want to stop me? Why do you want to stop responsible adults from carrying in schools? Why do you want to make it a gun-free zone, or as mass shooters call them, target-rich environments, soft targets? They know they know nobody's going to shoot back. That's why they go there. I don't know that that's why they go there. I'm just saying that it seems like a reason. I'm not saying they're reasonable because they're insane. But it seems like a reasonable conclusion. Charles Edward Cheese believes in liberty. It's not the Chuck E. Cheese rule. It's just the reality that nobody checks you at the door. There's no metal detector at the door to Chuck E. Cheese. They probably have a sign that says no guns, but can't get life insurance if you've been diagnosed with depression, so if you get seen. Well, one of the things is if you make a mental health rule that says you can't have a gun if you've been diagnosed with a certain mental health condition, then people will stop seeking mental health counseling. Right? If you live in a community where hunting is a big part of your life and you think you're having a mental health issue, you don't want to be diagnosed with it because then you won't be able to have your gun. So then you choose not to get diagnosed and then you don't get treated. And that's worse. Open borders breeds communism. No, communism loves closed borders. Communism loves closed borders. If communism loved open borders, why'd they build the Berlin Wall? Open borders presents a problem for those who want to have social welfare for just the nation paying for it. Well, okay, then let's end all the welfare programs. I'm okay with that. Or don't give it to illegal immigrants. Don't give it to immigrants. Give it to citizens. I didn't say open borders means you're automatically a citizen when you set foot here. Taco Bell is delicious. I don't know why Taco Bell is delicious came up. Now you made me want to go to Taco Bell. I just went to Burger King today. Stewie Collins says, I'm all for legal immigration, perhaps even reducing wait times for certain individuals. Like Elon said, we should actively recruit all-star talent like sports teams. Well, if you open the borders, then it's all legal and we solve the problem. All right, let's see. The cost of the fence is irrelevant in relation to a human life or a child's life. The fence doesn't work. The money you spend on a fence that doesn't work is money you didn't spend on a teacher or on an armed guard or whatever else you might have spent it on. I'm telling you, the fences don't work. There was a recent, I live in Boca Raton, Florida. There's the city, I lived in Boca Raton. I live in Coral Springs. Parkland is right over here. The school in Parkland has a fence. It didn't work. The shooter knew when the gate would be open. Because he was a student. That's one of the things that people don't realize. You have all these programs in the school. They teach all the kids, this is what we're going to do when there's an incident, when there's a code red or whatever. Half the time the shooters are kids who went to the school system and they know what the code, they know the system. They know how to, they know what you're doing to try to confuse them. They already know the game plan. It's so dumb. Stephen Reese says, the use of a gun in the commission of a crime will get you 10 years in a federal prison. All states should enforce a similar law. What about if you're carrying a gun while you smoke marijuana? Stephen, do you want that to be 10 years in a federal prison? Stephen? Be careful what you say. Be careful what you put into law. It might have consequences you don't like. Life in society was much different for our country's first 120 years. Yeah, it was more violent. We were poorer and more violent. I didn't say the undocumented immigrants should get citizenship. I just said we should let them come and let them leave. Unattended youth consume porn and they form sincere, immature opinions on what they see. This interferes with their ability to get grounded and they now have charged opinions. I definitely see people saying that pornography affects kids. I don't know how much it's true. I think there's a whole lot of things going on. I don't know that there's easy answers to that. Your junior high school had 100-foot high fences? Are you kidding, Mark? Because the fences I see are like 5 or 6 feet, and any teenager can get over them if they want. Give every child a mask and bulletproof vest to go to school. Yeah. Bulletproof vests aren't bulletproof to rifle rounds, just so you know. Most things that are labeled bulletproof, like Cybertruck, are bulletproof to handgun rounds, not to rifle rounds. The biggest problem in America is bullet. No restrictions on guns, but ban bullets. Yeah, that's not going to fly either. And there's like a few billion bullets in America or a trillion bullets in America. Good luck with that. And people can make them at home. Stating the obvious, criminals rarely hit a place with armed guards. Florida should dump the stupid fences and get more guards. No, just let responsible adults in the schools. Administrators, teachers, sure, give them a mental health check if you want. Make them do some training. And then when somebody comes to shoot up the school and there's 10 or 15 responsible adults with guns that are concealed, then you actually have a chance of stopping them. The cop that's at the other side of the property or the cop that's out front and gets scared isn't going to stop them, but the adults inside the school might, if you let them defend themselves and defend the kids. Yeah, how many people who don't like open borders like John Lennon's song Imagine? I'm just curious about that. Security guard on Gucci stores, but school should be open What? Tesla could make electric tasers for protection. No. I heard they're giving $1 million to anyone that crosses the border. No, I don't think they're giving $1 million to anyone who crosses the border. I'm going to come across the border as an illegal immigrant if I can get $1 million. Sure, parents be willing to volunteer to go down there and mend the metal detectors. Also allow more people to carry guns and have to wait for the cops to get there. Yeah, well, I'm saying allow people to... I just think the metal detector solution doesn't work. And this is the thing. You can say we're only going to have one door. The buildings are made with multiple doors. First of all, for fire safety, you can't just have one door. And then they just open doors. I was at Boca Middle School subbing, and there's supposed to be one door, and there was a door on the side of the stairway, and they left it open. You make rules, and people don't follow them. Make all the rules they want. If people don't follow them, it doesn't work. You got to make rules that are going to work and that people are going to follow. All right, so I want to wrap this up. I just want to get back to it. Let me just really quickly summarize. Elon tweeted about assault rifles. And I thought maybe this to be clear for people who missed the beginning, this is an accurate statement of present law in America. Okay, assault rifles are automatic weapons, automatic rifles. And they're capable of automatic fire, burst mode, not semi-automatic, but automatic. Okay, and under federal law, you have to pay a $200 tax stamp and get a special permit from the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms to possess them. And I think they have to be made before like 1986 or something like that. And they're very expensive. And the recipient is vetted, right? So that was an accurate statement of current law in America. Elon then said he meant semi-automatic guns with supersonic ammo and a large magazine. Well, okay, now that's what the whole conversation was about. And I don't agree with Elon. I think Elon's wrong. And I think Elon should be less wrong. The Be Less Wrong shirt is at elonbits.com. Then Elon said the right to bear arms is an important safeguard against potential tyranny of government. Well, then the right to possess semi-automatic and even automatic firearms is important as part of the safeguard against potential tyranny of government. I personally don't care about automatic weapons. I think they should be legal. I just don't care. I don't want one. I don't have one. I haven't tried to get one. I've been at places that allow you to shoot automatic weapons. I think it's dumb. I think it's a waste of ammo. I'd much rather shoot carefully and hit my target every time than spray a bunch of ammo at an area. There is a technique to shooting full auto or burst mode that makes sense, but Elon suggested a middle ground. There's no compromise. The gun banners will not. The idea that we're going to compromise on something, the gun banners will not stop. They want to ban all guns. They want to ban all guns. Period. The vast majority of people who say they want to ban scary black rifles, they'll want to ban handguns next. They'll want to ban shotgun next. They'll get to single shotguns eventually. In London, they ban knives. They want to ban it all. And then the homicide insurance point was just dumb. What's the penalty for committing homicide without homicide insurance? Do you get 2 life sentences? I want to say this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen Elon say. I love Elon. I think Elon is wonderful. I'm a huge fan. But this is the dumbest thing Elon's ever said that I know of. He may have said something dumber somewhere else. And why would we trust government officials to make decisions? That's what I said in my reply. What in your life history has led you to believe that government officials generally make good decisions? Government is not the solution to our problems. Government is often the cause of our problems. If we want to start figuring out how to solve problems, let's start figuring out how government causes those problems and how can we stop government from causing those problems. You don't want to think that way if you believe in government, right? If you replaced God with government, I'm an atheist, just to be clear. I'm not religious. I'm not really an atheist because atheists have to believe there's no God. I just don't believe one way or the other. So I think technically I'm an agnostic atheist or an agnostic Jew or something like that. But, yeah. So, all right. So, please support this channel on the Locals platform, warrenredlich.locals.com, Patreon, YouTube channel membership, all links in the description below. Check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com. check out my other videos. Support Elon. Like him or not, support Elon. If you don't agree with him on this issue, please support him. Don't be scared away from supporting Elon because he said something you don't like. He's doing really important things for humanity. He's making the world a better place. Everybody, let's all say I love Elon. Thank you so much for watching.